Today I have with me Karen Wang. I'm Autumn Carter, and this episode was my idea from being in the thick of it with my children. I have four young kids. My youngest is turning 4 on Saturday, and then I have a 5-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 10-year-old. All different personalities, which is what led me to Karen. Mostly it was my third child, but all of them. And I have been really focusing on lately, giving them more independence and what that looks like, which is great for my personality type because I am more of that supportive and cautious. And what's interesting, I'm looking at my sticky note of the personality types for all of my children. The one that I struggle with the most has the most opposite personality type. And looking at them, I see a lot of S's and C's for everybody else. It totally makes sense. My husband is flipped with me and which one's strongest and which one's second strongest. He and I get along really well. But when teaching children independence, it's a lot of work. Honestly, if we look at it from all the different angles, the easiest thing to do is just do it ourselves. So much easier. But is it? That's the whole point of this conversation. Because if we are fine, I'll just do it myself. I'll just clean up that thing. I'll clean up after them. I'll make the decision for them. It can be really hard, especially when they become teenagers, if they have that dominant personality. When they become teenagers with the strong personality, they, or even my 10-year-old, he sometimes has that dominant side. He wants to make the decisions. And when I have started opening things up for him and really having that chance to reflect and update my Google Maps, so to speak, of like his personality, where he's at, where I want him to go, have that adjustment time and realizing he needs more responsibility. So he has his chore list and he decides when he wants to get them done. He was excited when he found out about that. Oh, I get to take more charge of this. We're giving him more responsibility in other areas, which is responsibility, but also fun. And he gets to hold the reins and it teaches them their life. I tell him often that he's my trial child. He's the oldest, so I try it out on him. But I know people who have grown up having their parents clean the toilet for them, do all of the chores, all of the grocery shopping without the children. And the one person I'm thinking of in particular, when we were roommates, she was telling me, reflecting with our other roommates, I moved in on later than they did, that they had to teach her how to clean a toilet. They had to teach her how to clean things, which is why our apartment was so clean because she was so proud of it. It worked out for me because I love clean and order. And then I have 4 kids. That's a whole other story. But they also had to teach her how to ride a bike. There are things that we need to not fully let go of, but guide our children towards independence. So take a minute to pause and reflect on what goals you have for your children or would like to have for yourself. And then bring in your significant other, whoever is the partner or co parent. If you're divorced, still co parent. Think about where you want them to go. What words do you want to attach to that? And to give you an idea, I pulled up mine. So I'm going to look over here at my other screen. I have advocate. That's very important to my husband and I, that our children can advocate for themselves. I have explore. We love exploring things. It's been really hard when they've been really young. We're just getting back into explore mode again. Question everything, which is not always a good goal. Sometimes it's hard. Just do what I say. Balance. We want them to have balance. I am a wellness coach. That's the main hat that I wear. So balance is important to me. Faithful. We are religious, so we want them to be faithful. And if that's not in our religion, find something that you can have that solid foundation, that rock. Resilient, self-disciplined, and compassionate. Those are the words that my husband and I came up with together before we even had all of our 4 children. They were babies still. We were still seeing their personalities emerge. And I needed to have that step back and reflect on, I don't like micromanage. I get frustrated. I don't like nagging. So I needed to reflect on, how do I do this differently? So we are going to talk to Karen now. Thanks for being on during my very long spiel about the DISC model, which if this is your first time, I'll try and explain it and then Karen will back me up and fix it. That she is the one who has this is her baby, the disc model. It's probably the best way of saying it. Think of 4 quadrants, and we have 4 major personalities. So there's a lot going on within the quadrants, but 4 personalities. Nice and easy. I love that she chose something easy. And some we get along with better than others, the personalities. And this can make all the difference. In parenting, most people come because most of us are parenting coaches, but you can take this. My husband's taking it. He's a manager. You can take it to work. You can take it with your in-laws. In the school system, I know that several of the parenting coaches, Karen in particular, takes it into the school system. It works with anybody who has a personality, which is everybody. I want to talk to you, Karen, about we were starting off with your daughter, Anna, as an example. So Karen's personality is more dominant. And then her daughter is more of you said C,
She's
correct?
supportive and cautious, yes. So
Okay.
I'm
So
more the
she's my
dominant and
personality.
inspiring, and she's more supportive, cautious. So we are a polar opposite blend. And as you said, coming into this, Autumn, that raising independent, confident, resilient kids that have a healthy self-esteem, that they know that they can take on with any challenges that they have. But you're absolutely right. It starts at a young age. And like you and my dominant personality, myself, sometimes it's just easier to do it myself. It's easier to set the table. It's easier to clear the table. It's easier to empty the dishwasher. It's easier to do the laundry. It's easier to fold the laundry. It's easier to put the laundry away. Like I did all the things, but I wasn't teaching my kids independent responsibility and life skills that they will take into the next part of their life. If I continue to do everything for them, why would they need to do anything? Now that's going to put that on their spouse. I realized that I wasn't helping them if I continued to make all the decisions myself. That's natural in my personality to be a decision maker and to make those decisions to move everybody forward. But then I got to the point, as you were saying, when we get into adolescence, now I'm starting to get a little resentful because I'm doing everything and they're doing nothing, but I created. And so how do we, as you and I talked about before we get on, how do we get to the point where our kids want to be with us, but not necessarily need us for every single thing? So now we can start making that shift in that relationship where we are raising them to be independent, which again builds their confidence and self-esteem as compared to being solely dependent on us. Within the personalities, our personality and our parenting style has a lot to do with how we address them, right? How we approach them, how we will parent, and our expectations of our children based on that. And as you had mentioned before, me being that dominant personality, that's my strongest suit. I'm dominant and inspiring. Anna was supportive and conscious. That Anna was indecisive. She's a people pleaser. So it was difficult for her to make decisions because she didn't want to make the wrong decision. So she would make no decision, which to me is a decision to not make a decision. Okay. But for me to be frustrated with her and force her into it's this or this, pick one, and she would. But if I wasn't calm and patient enough to teach her how to make decisions that she would be comfortable with, she would make decisions just because someone pressured her. But then we find that they don't do anything with it because they weren't comfortable with that decision. And I started to pick up on those cues. This is when early on in my parenting, I was starting to be able to read my kids. One story in particular was when Anna was in middle school. We were going out for our clothing for the year and she needed a winter coat. And middle school, things change in middle school because image is a big deal, okay, to them and their peers because we're starting to get into adolescence. And so we spent a day going shopping for a winter coat. And so we were going to this store and I didn't like it. Then we go to this store and I didn't like it. We're going, now where I live, there's only so many stores we can work. Okay. So I'm finding we're running out of stores. Okay. So we hit the department stores, we're hitting Marshalls, we're hitting TJ Maxx, we're hitting all the stores. And so she did find one coat that she thought she liked, but it wasn't in her size. So I called another store and said, do you have this coat? Do you have that size? Yes. Boom, let's go. Okay. So we get there. She puts it on. She tries it on. She says, I don't know. I'm ready to lose it right now. I'm texting my husband saying, there's not enough wine for that day. And so I'm feeling the frustration. But I knew if I got frustrated, then I'm putting that back on her. So this is what I said to her. And I said, because I'm telling you, I had talked myself off the ledge, right? I know we're at the other store that this was your favorite coat by far of everything we looked at today. And they do have your size. So why don't we do this? Why don't we just take it home? It's been a long day. We've been out shopping all day. If you decide tomorrow that you don't want it, we'll take it back and we'll start over. But since it's been a long day and we finally found, and this is what we thought we wanted, you're unsure, and I get that. Why don't we just take it home and see what happens? If you don't like it tomorrow, we'll take it. So we go home, and of course, she's trying it on multiple times, and she's got to be looking in the mirror and get the little butt check, And then she cut the tags off, and I said, done. But if I coerced her and said, are you kidding me? We've been to 5 stores today. It's just a winter coat. You know what I mean? Why does this have to be so difficult? Because it's what I'm feeling inside. Okay. But if I were to say that to her, I would make her feel not competent, not empowered, not being heard, because I'm reading her what she's unsure of. So rather than put the pressure, let's just give it, look, have we all taken clothes back? Yeah, I've done it too.
That pleaser side. I feel awkward returning the thing. That's what I love about Amazon. You
Just ship the back with Amazon, right? We don't have to do that. So these types of, in that personality showed up in many areas of our life. Anything from a book report. She needed a nonfiction book report. So we're going in, and the library's got a lot of books and they have little icons, fiction, nonfiction, historical fiction, whatever. And so, there was a lot of books for her to choose from. And I'm thinking, oh, here we go again. So I said to her, why don't you just walk around the library and pick out a few books that you think you might be interested and bring them back to me? I just let her go. I went to another section of the library and then get back to me, not putting any pressure, not waiting, tapping, waiting, that type of thing, and putting that pressure on her. And then she came back with like 6 or 7 books. And I said, so what do you think? And she says, I don't know. And I said, why don't we do this? Why don't we just bring them home? And you can maybe read the chapter or read the inside cover of each one of those books and then zero it down on the ones that you think you like. And then maybe you read the first chapter and decide which one's your interest, and that's the one we'll go with. But I had to teach her that process of elimination, to weigh the pros and cons, to make a decision that she was comfortable with, not what I was comfortable with. Same thing with science fair. Anything that had to make a decision that she was unsure of, not wanting to make a wrong decision and then making no decision, we still have to make a decision. I had to teach her that process of elimination so that she was comfortable. So now she's in her 20s. She's getting married. We're going wedding dress shopping. And I'm thinking there's not enough wine in the world going to get me through this process, because this is how I raised her in all these situations. But now she's in her 20s. She's been out on her own. She's more independent now. And what we found is that when we got to the first bridal salon, she tried on 5 dresses. Number 2 was stunning on her. But it's not my dress, it's her dress. After she tried on the 5, she came back out dress number 2. And I said, is this your? And she said, yes. And I thought I was going to fall out of the darn chair. And I said, you just picked out a wedding dress in 45 minutes? How did that happen? Through all of the teaching of doing the research and the information, she had already had her designer, her body line. She had done all the work that she could zero it in all. And that was not a dress that was in her portfolio, but it certainly was her dress, and we were done. And you know what? We need to celebrate that. But if we do not lean in to meet their needs, to teach them this life skill, they will feel as though they need to make the decisions other people think they need to make, instead of the decisions that they want to make. Does that make sense? And if we make them feel guilty or bad about themselves because they don't make quick decisions, and look, it was frustrating in the beginning because I'm like, it's this or this, pick one. It's not a big deal. And if it doesn't work out, we'll just get one. But it had to be the right one because she's supportive and cautious, and that brings that perfectionist. It's got to be the right decision, not just a decision, the right decision. And so we need to look as parents, are we teaching our kids that independence and resilience and confidence and levels of self-esteem because we are teaching them a process? Or are we just doing it for them because that's what we think is best? Then they get out into the real world and they don't know how to make decisions because we told them what to do, when to do, and how to do it their whole stinking life. So that's why you need to understand your personality. Now, that was my challenge as a dominant personality. And I know you are opposite. So Autumn, you came from a different perspective with your personality and the way you were raised. And so how did that influence you being raised and how you're taking approach with your children now?
Great question. Because can I go back in time and can you be my mom? I did not have this at all. And I just feel supported by you saying what you did with your daughter and feel seen. And I can allow that more. I have dominant parents, complete opposite personalities than me. You ever have that where you say something out loud and you're like, wait a second, now that I said it out loud. So my dad very much the dominant personality. My mom, I don't know that it was even her second personality. She was under so much stress that she faked it. No wonder why she would explode out of nowhere. She wasn't living herself, which in the parenting program, what I really love is that we talk about what shows up for yourself when you're not stressed and when you are, because it most times is completely different. And wow, I feel it adjusted myself just realizing this and can let go of resentment. I was not seen. I had very much hear your choices, hurry up, make your decisions, everything. Choices were made for me. I moved out when I was 18. There was enough abuse that the second I could, I was gone. And I suddenly had to make all these decisions for myself and would freak out. And I had a stepdad at that point, and he helped calm my mom down, get her real personality showing through. So I would call them. I need help making this decision, or I'm done making decisions. Just pick something for me. I would do that to my boyfriend's best friend, my roommates, because it was so overwhelming. The amount of decisions as an adult that have to be made. It still can be, especially as a mom now. And what I cheat and do, and which has led to this, is I have them make their own decisions. Why do I need to make them for them anyway? It's already enough that I make my own. So there's that. And then I was talking before we hit record, and this is something that I'll dive further into in my own podcast episode on my podcast. But it's very much the idea of if you did not have this for yourself or allow this for yourself, because sometimes as children, we don't even allow that for ourselves. But if we weren't seen as the personality type that we are, we can reparent ourselves. That's a very trendy word to use. My way of doing that is I am starting to speak up for the things that I do want. I'll use the example that I gave you from yesterday. My husband and I had facials. It was my second time ever, my husband's first time. For some reason, he was willing to do it with me, which would be really fun to talk about. The one that I sent that I wanted was not scheduled. It was a different one. I had already pushed the boundaries on finding a place that was open later and asked them if they could stay later. So they stayed later for us because babysitting wise and just the way that it worked out with our schedule, we needed that. Then we had to reschedule because of a snowstorm, which we were all watching it. So they were grateful that we rescheduled 3 hours before our time. So they had plenty of time. So there's already so much leading up to this. And I already was feeling guilt, but also feeling taken care of, very mixed bag. I go in and my husband's already in his room being taken care of. I'm in my room with my technician. I don't even know what she's supposed to be called in this moment. We're talking about the procedure, what's going to happen. And I told her, yeah, I had this a year and a half ago. This is what happened. And she says, that doesn't sound right. We don't use that machine anymore for this. Okay, but this still happens, right? Are you sure you got this facial? Are you sure it wasn't a different one? Like I said, we're the only ones back in this area. So now the other rooms are being used. There's none of that stress. I told her I had to do a self check and breathe through it, but I told her, I think that's what I want. So we were discussing it more, and she was very receptive, which helps me spread my wings and say what I really wanted. Instead, because I was trying to get to the indecisive, question myself, I said, what if we turn on the light and you look at my face and tell me what I need? She did that. And we decided that what was going to be best was actually what I wanted, which was more expensive. So bigger tip for her. So it's reminding myself, I'm paying for this. I want to get what I want. Otherwise, it's going to feel like a waste of money. I'm not going to be happy.
Right.
I'm going to be embarrassed and not go back there again, even though they know nothing about my embarrassment.
Right.
So it's taking that time to really, what do I really want? There are so many children who become adults like me and have a hard time saying what they really want. And because of what happened yesterday, I went to the chiropractor today and I showed up early. I even told them, I know I'm early, so just let me know when you want me. And they said, actually, right now, perfect for my schedule. And once I went back there, I said, is this the table that does that like rotation that can stretch your back? And she said, I think so. And then we're looking at it more. And she says, you know what? I don't think it is. I think it's the room next door. There's nobody there in the office as a patient. So I said, can I have the one next door? no big deal. And I got what I wanted, what my back really needed. So it's really fun to have the positive experience of, oh, I can actually do this. I am an adult. I'm paying the money for these things. Why don't I do this? And hopefully seeing the sides from a mother doing this for her daughter and an adult learning to do this for herself helps you. Can we now switch? Because I know you have a dominant son that led you on this journey, like my dominant son did.
Yes.
Tell us what it looks like when they're not being allowed independence. They're not being allowed to make decisions. What it looks like when they're not, and then how things changed when you did start allowing that.
When we're trying to cultivate resilience and independence, self reliance, whatever you want to call it, within our kids, different personalities are going to approach it in different ways. So, in other words, the dominant child is always, I can do it myself. I don't need you. I can do it myself. So we don't have to worry about them. They will take the lead. And sometimes they don't ask questions. They don't get permission. He doesn't do it. In fact, when Kyle was 18 months old and I was in college and I had him on campus with me at the daycare there, one of the activities was they did a silhouette bubble of the kids. They laid down on this paper and then they put a little bubble as to their words. And Kyle's words, first words were, I do. I do. He wouldn't let anybody help him. Not do this cook, not tie a shoe. I do. They take charge. But the challenge is sometimes, how do I guide them when I feel as though he's making a choice that's not going to be in his best interest? And as a mom, it was hard because I did get into that power struggle and tried to force him to do it my way because I knew his way may not work out. But as he got older, I needed to let him make those choices and experience those logical consequences and not saying, I told you, or if you just listened to me, this wouldn't have happened. So when he does things that because this is what he's driven to do or what he thinks he wants to do, and it doesn't work out, I have to be sad and not mad. Those of you who worked with me, you know that I do that because when you get mad, you will break that connection. I needed to be sad and say, dang, that didn't work out so well. How are you doing? What do you think you might be able to do differently? Or what would you do next time? And communicate and collaborate and not make them feel guilty about that. If they want to take on a project, let them. Don't micromanage them. If anything, just saying, so what's the plan? I'm excited. How you going to handle this? Because I know you got this. Meet them there with confidence. Now, when we've got our inspiring kids, which again, high energy, go from one thing to the next. They're the bouncers. Whatever they want to do, they'll do it, but they have to have fun doing it. Okay. So they are not focused on the task. They are fun loving. They can be easily distracted in keeping them on track. The way we can build the resilience with them is if they forget their homework or commitments because they were caught up and they weren't paying attention, instead of rescuing them again, we need to let them experience the consequences. So if they are forgetting things like their lunch or their homework, then let's have a conversation and say, so what do you think would be a good way for you to remember to put that homework? Let's collaborate with, not just tell them and not do it for them, but I'm not teaching them to be responsible because see, if I don't put it in the backpack and I used to, then it's my fault when it's not there, not helping. All right. So it shifts the responsibility from me to them when we say, so what do you think would be the best way to remember to make sure that homework gets in? Let's hold on. Now, the supportive child, and we talked a little bit about that with my daughter and your own personality, they don't like change. They like things to stay the same. They are loyal. They are routine. They often hesitate to step out of their comfort zone because that's scary for them. It can be really scary for them. As you're saying, just even speaking up and even taking Anna shopping and she wanted a pair of jeans and it didn't have a price tag on it. And I said, well, if you want them, you need to go ask the lady how much it costs. Now, I have no problem asking how much it costs, but I could see the fear on her face that if I want them, I have to go ask. And she did. But some kids don't order in a restaurant because their parents will order for them. Like we need to teach them, especially this personality, as you were saying, to advocate for themselves. You said you struggled with that, but that's a priority of what you want to teach your kids. If they're nervous about a new responsibility, then let's do it together today. And then tomorrow you can do it on your own. Whenever that is, like we can teach them. And then we need to do what? Pass the baton. What part of this makes you really nervous? How can I help you feel more confident in what you're doing? Acknowledge it, lean into it, but let's have a strategy to move them on because it is easier to just do it ourselves than to watch them go through that pain. And I watched pain on her face. But that wasn't going to teach her to be an independent young woman. And then for the cautious child, they get caught up in that. What if I get it wrong? What if I do it wrong? Because they're the perfectionists. They like structure, they like rules, they like things doing it correctly, which can cause that paralysis of analysis and hesitate from doing new things that they've not done before to set up their independence. So if they avoid making those decisions because they're afraid they're going to make a mistake, right? And I've seen that in my kids because my kids were all a blend of all four of these personalities. No one's just one, but we will have some predominant traits that we see. I had to just say, if it doesn't work out, what do you think's the worst thing that could happen? Because I'm of the opinion, if it doesn't work out, I'll just figure out another way. But they have to have all their ducks in a row before they make a decision. And I'm just like, we can't steer the boat in the dock here. We need to figure it out because we can be fluid and we can work our way through it. But that's not how their brain works. And I need to honor and respect and then say, if it doesn't work out, what do you think we need to do differently next time? I had to do that with Kyle a lot because Kyle's more that dominant and cautious. So encourage them to take small risks and build that confidence with their problem solving, because as they build that confidence, then they're willing to take more risks. But it's almost as though in our parenting style, and I don't want to keep dominating this conversation, we have the parents who overparent, or we call the helicopter parent, right? We're constantly stepping in to solve the problems. And then what that does is it leads to kids feeling incapable, that they're not dependent. My mom's got it all. My mom will do it all. But if we are on the other side of that and we're too strong, then what we're doing is we're not developing that independence. And then we have parents who just hands off. We give them too much freedom. We're not giving them guidance. And then the kids they're so unsure, they don't feel supportive of anything that they do. So the goal of what we want to do is really become almost like a parent coach, coaching our kids, guiding our kids, walking alongside them as we are doing what I call passing the baton of independence, where we are doing things together until we let go and they take the baton. And it is a process. What I'm starting to see, Autumn, and you may experience the same, is that there's a fear in our society of things happening to our kids. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't have a healthy level of fear and setting boundaries on what we allow our kids to do, but we can't protect them from everything. My kids were going to see kids smoking weed on the school bus. What am I going to do? You know what I mean? So we had to talk about people smoking weed. We had to talk about, and Anna would be like, how can people smoke weed and go to school? We had to have those conversations rather than ignore it, lean into it of what they're going to see, and then give them the guidelines, boundaries, and talk to them about these things. And parents just want to protect them from ever experiencing the evil things out there, but then they get out there and it's, whoa, they don't know what's going on. So it really is being able to guide our kids and building that resilience. But the most important thing that we use as the foundation of the parenting blueprint is understanding the personality, family dynamics within your family to know how is the best way for each child so that I am guiding them according to their design. What Kyle needed was very different than what Anna needed. What Eric needed was very different than what Kyle needed because they were different kids. It was not a one size fits all. And so as a parent, you have this information, I have this information, and this what we share with parents when they get frustrated with what do I do next is we need to dial everything back from the surface behavior to get to the why of the motivation. And then we can meet those needs and then we can. So you have very different experiences with your kids and the diversity that they have within your family. So you see that it's not a one size fits all approach with your family as well.
So how do you make sure that you're parenting fair instead of making sure that so it's not equal parenting, so it's fair instead?
Yeah.
So for me, fair would mean that I feel like the punishment that I got works for my personality type, or this is where my mind is at, chores with my children. The chore matches my personality type, or the rewards match my personality type. Versus everybody gets the exact same reward, everybody gets the exact same punishment. So
it's interesting that you say that because they were very polar opposite. Kyle was more of the left side of the model, Eric was more of the right side of the model. And when I did need to discipline or a restriction because they had stepped over a boundary, I would unplug Kyle because Kyle was a tech kid. So I restricted him from his technology because that's what hurt him most. Eric was more outdoor play and more social, so I grounded him. Now, Kyle wouldn't care if I grounded him because he don't go out anyway, so that wasn't going to work. So what I had to do was unplug him and say, go outside and make a friend. You know what I mean? It was different, but I had to take him off what he desired in that restriction and setting those boundaries. When we talk about this as one of our parenting strategies, you're not necessarily saying no, but you're putting kind of conditions. I'll allow you time on the game system after you've emptied it at the dishwasher. You know what I mean? I'm not saying no, you can't have it, but this, and we talk about the chores and how to get those things done. It needed to be done in that way. Anna had wet tails everywhere because the girl was showering and doing hair, ballet, and all the things. And I was just like, take you to dance once the tails are hung. So that gets us out of those power struggles. It's not a one size fits all approach. It is identifying what that internal emotional need is. And discipline is a discipline of self-discipline. It is not the punishment. It's teaching a skill or meeting a need. Does that make sense? And so when we look at punishment and the way parents seem to punish, punishment sometimes can cause the resentment. Where when we are teaching discipline, which is a self-discipline, we are teaching them to live within the boundaries of their stuff.
And that allows
Discipline
for
is
natural
different.
consequences.
Yeah, and experience the natural consequences. Absolutely. If Kyle was going to choose to not do his homework and I got tired of that power struggle, the consequence was the zero. And if he got too many zeros, then the consequence was going to be a failure. And if he failed, then the consequence was either you earn the money to make the correspondence course, because we already paid for school. Was paid for, you know what I'm saying? But I'm not going to pay extra for a class that you failed. So either you can earn the money to make that class up, or you can graduate a year late. These are logical things that will happen in real world. When we cover for them, we're not teaching them what's going to happen. We're not teaching them what's going to happen when they get on a bigger scale. And then they flounder and fail, and then they become the victim mentality because we're not teaching them those disappointments when they're younger, the things that they cannot have because they didn't follow through on expectations. And so as we are raising our kids, yes, it is so much easier to just do it ourselves because I have to stop and pause and teach my kids how to put the silverware into the drawer, and they're not in the right bins and I have to go back and fix them. But these are the chores that we teach our kids at a young age, that they all contribute, that we all matter, and everybody has value in what they do to make the household work. So yeah, it was
I'm not the maid.
Can I tell you how many times I've said that? I'm the mom, not the maid. That's my line. I'm the mom, not the maid. But then now they're out on their own in their own homes, and they understand how to clean a toilet. They understand how to do a budget. They understand how to meal plan because they were picking out a menu that they would want to cook that week. We're teaching these things, and it's so important to do that. And many parents, we're not doing it.
And I promise one day you'll be able to put your feet up because they're doing the thing properly.
And so
Here's
now
my
when
next
we get
question.
together for family events, everyone's bringing a dish and we all pitch in to do everything. I mean, it's not one person doing it, and we all know who's got their specialty, and it's a wonderful, beautiful thing.
Okay, my next question. So we've all been at family gatherings and have heard this. I know I'm not the only one. Same parents, all the children have grown up in the same household, and they have different experiences of how they were parented and whether it was good or bad. And I feel like this goes in with the parenting fairly versus parenting equally. What are your thoughts?
I'm sure every family has this. Someone was the favorite, right? Someone was the favorite. And in our home, Kyle always felt that Eric was the favorite. Now, Eric's more relational, and I connect with Eric on relationship, and he was active. So we would go skiing and we would shoot hoops. Like, we did a lot of things together. And Kyle was a gamer, and I didn't understand the game, so I didn't play his game. Not that I was opposed to him playing the game, but we didn't have that. But his perception was Eric was the favorite. And I just said, you're just different kids. It's not I loved you any differently. And then one time when they were older, and he said, and Eric was always the favorite. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. He was. And he says, Stan. And I'm like, that was but in his perception, was I ever going to change that? Was I ever going to change his mind to that? And I feel bad that's how he felt. But we had different interests. So I had to lean into him more and ask him more questions about his game. And just learn to understand his world. It was not something that I had an interest in, but rather than push it away, I needed to lean in and learn a little bit more about why he liked it. Kyle loved strategy. He was more a head thinker. Eric was more hand and Kyle was more head. Eric was more physically active and Kyle was more mental challenge. Don't take that the wrong way, but he liked challenge himself intellectually, where Eric liked to challenge himself physically. And so it wasn't right or wrong. They were just totally different kids. But how can I appreciate and respect Kyle's ability to think as deeply as he does, to be as thorough as he is, even though that's not my strength, my absolute lowest. And so what happens when it feels awkward? We separate from it. But that was not going to help him feel valued and understood for who he was. I needed to lean in. And yeah, it felt a little awkward sometimes. He's explaining games to me that were like way over my head. But I just asked questions and listened, asked questions and listened. And if he decided he was going to play me, he whooped my butt in about a minute and a half. And it's not like I didn't try. We have our family time, but then we have our individual quality time. And so those are the things that we can do so that we don't have to navigate through that, their perception when they get older. Because Kyle will still feel that. Because I wasn't introduced to this information until Kyle was like 12.
Next question.
And
And
I
I know
was,
that
I
you have a
get it.
favorite child depending on what thing it is. So when you saw, what was your other son's name? Not Kyle.
Eric.
Eric.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you saw Eric trying to set up his basketball hoop, you said no, and then you used Kyle because he likes the mental games. That's what you more mean is he's the IKEA builder that everybody would like when they're trying to build that.
You got it. Kyle's the man. Oh, yeah. I remember the first time we brought home, and it was like a TV stand with their game systems. So we were going to set that up for them. This is when they were younger. And so we bought it, and it was late in the evening. We all went to bed. I got up in the morning. He already had it done. It was a Christmas morning to do that. And you're right. When we got the basketball net for the driveway and we had to dig the hole and do the concrete, and Eric had bought it because he was working at the sporting goods store and he got it on sale and he bought it himself. And that was his contribution to the house. And he starts laying out the parts. And I'm like, calling Kyle on the phone, where are you? Getting home real quick because I don't trust him to do that. No, I didn't want to. I was kind of like, why don't you let Kyle help you with that? You know what I mean? Because I knew there would be extra parts. And even to this day, when we moved out of that house, still spun around. It still wasn't in set. You hit the backboard and it would spin and it was. Now I'm telling you, if Kyle did it on his own, that would not have happened. But Eric was in the equation. So we can look back and laugh on that now as a childhood story, but it is how it makes them feel, how we make them feel. Do they feel confident? Do they feel independent? Do they feel as though they're capable to handle anything life is going to throw them? Or are they going to be second guessing them because my parents didn't make me feel or help me to feel confident in what we were doing as we raised them? It's such an important thing to remember as we're parenting our kids.
Absolutely. And it makes me think when you're talking about that, isn't that us as a family? We have this vision, it's going to be this way, but the other personalities come in and the basketball move might be doing this, but it's fun and it's something to laugh about and look back on. And I tell my children they're my favorite child for this particular thing or that, realizing, oh, yeah, I shine in this moment, I shine in this one. And I'll say it loud enough for everybody else to hear. And then they start trying to maul me with hugs while I'm running away. It's a whole fun thing. Our kids are young enough. We all have personality strengths and it's leaning into them and we can use them within our families too.
Right. So just a couple of things for our listeners to remember is that we need to be able to encourage our kids to take ownership in their own way. The dominant kid is going to take it anyway. The inspiring kid just wants to be recognized for the things that they do. The supportive kid likes doing it with somebody until they feel confident to do it on their own. And again, the cautious personality is going to be a little resistant because of perfection. And then teaching that decision-making skills without stepping in and making that for them, even if it takes a little longer than we would prefer, give them that time and space to be able to process to make that decision. Even if it's not a quick decision maker, we can get back. I know you may not know right now, but let's get back and talk about it on Wednesday. Would that be okay? And just letting them know they don't have to, not putting that pressure on them. Building their emotional independence by helping kids manage their feelings and emotion, that they can still feel safe to come to us if they're unsure about anything. So even though we're passing that baton, there may come a time where something's going to come into their world and they're not going to know, but not making them feel guilty that they couldn't, but appreciating is you're set that they want to come to us, not feel as though they need to come to us, right? That they do feel safe. When Kyle was buying a house, he was like, will you come up and look at houses with me? When he got his mortgage papers, will you look over these mortgage papers with me? That's what we want, right? Not that he needed me to do it all, but would you come with me? I'll come with you. And using those affirmations and encouragement based on their personality style. As you were saying, I love this child based on this and this because they're all diverse. But if they all see that you love certain things in them, they're all equally loved, but for very different reasons.
And honestly, it sounds If your schedule did not allow for it, he could do those things on his own.
Yeah, but from the turbulent raising of that boy, for him to even call me and ask me to go, I was like, sure, because he just wanted someone else to go look at a house with him. Oh, and I was like, come up and take a look. He still had to decide which one he wanted, but he wanted to weigh out the pros and cons with me. I wasn't making a decision. Then he decided, got back to the realtor, did the financing. I don't understand these terms. What does this mean? What does that mean? That's what we want. That's what we want, to be able to coach them and guide them, but feeling confident that they don't need us to do it, but that they want us to do it.
Go ahead.
We
No.
want to create that relationship that lasts a lifetime.
Yes. And for me, and you could start this at any time. So even if your kid's older and you're not used to doing this, start small. And even with snack time, this prevents tantrums. I'm using my 4-year-old as an example. Which snack do you want? Do you want this or that's when you're going down for a nap? So there's not the, I want to go down for a nap when they're having enough of a meltdown that you totally need to go down for a nap.
Yeah.
You can start with smaller things, especially if you're just starting this out and they're 12 years old. And you will see them light up, and that will be your encouragement to keep doing this. So do it every chance that you can.
Mm-hmm.
Take that weight off of your own shoulders. You don't need to make all the decisions. You can then get to the point where you can just sit back and have your tea. And especially you might be holding onto that mug. If it's a child like Anna, just make it in it already. Grab a book when you go to the store with them. Go shopping for yourself. Find ways that you're still treating yourself and you're releasing that frustration so your children aren't seeing it, but let them make more choices.
Yeah.
It makes it easier. Let them fail while they have the safety net of your home,
Absolutely.
not when they're an adult, because then they either will make more catastrophic decisions or false decisions, wrong decisions, or they will be too afraid to make a decision for their life and they stay stuck at that crossroads for way too long. We've all seen people like that. Some of us have been there in different situations. It took me forever to figure out what I was doing for my college degree. So I thought for a while and went back when my oldest was 7 months old and then was able to continue on. I figured it out, but what if I had done it a couple decades before?
And
So,
it's okay. And it's able to respect that you took a pause because you were unsure. And instead of making you feel guilty that you didn't finish, I mean, 7 kids, 3 of them have degrees, and a couple of them started and didn't finish because they wanted to work and they didn't want to go. And what am I going to do? Make them feel guilty about it? No, you'll find your way. And if you want to go back later, you will once you decide what you want to do, or you'll pick up your career and you'll be fine. It just sometimes it's what our expectation is, and we put that pressure on them, and then we feel the guilt when they don't measure up to what we wanted. And parents, we got to stop. And you know why we do that is because, see, if they have that level of success that we think they should have, then we look better as parents. It's about the relationship and the connection that we have to support them to be the best they can be according to their.
and that goes back to the wedding dress when we were fucking before and we were saying, yes, we definitely want to share this. Is there are times when I was a child, sometimes it still happens then as an adult, where I make a decision quickly and I have others going, are you sure about that? Because I made it so quick. It was the right decision, but now I'm stuck second guessing because other people are second guessing me. There's such a difference. I'm sure you're like, let's go out and celebrate, have lunch right now.
We did.
I didn't
We got more time
What-
for dinner.
What a difference. And she had the encouragement to do that with the rest of her wedding planning
Yep.
instead of being stuck at the dress and then stuck sending out the invites and everything else along the way. And then maybe a fight, we could go down this road. What a difference. It's really offering that support when they need it, hands off when they need it, safety net when they need it. It allows you to have more freedom to work on yourself, to pick up a hobby. Your hobby should not be helicoptering your children. You are teaching them how to spread their wings. Don't be clipping them.
That's right. And as parents, we tend to do that because we want to keep them under our control, but that's not raising resilient kids.
But we also need to know that we're going to make mistakes.
We are.
So my favorite part about all of this is really understanding the repair. Can you talk about that for a quick second?
Yes, let's do it. When we know better, we can do better. And it's okay to go back to your kids and say, I've learned a lot about myself and a lot about you. And there are some things that I did that I probably could have done differently. And I'm sorry if I hurt you with some of these things. But from now on, I want to try and do better. And I've even asked my kids when I was first getting started, with my parenting and learning how to apply this whole philosophy. How can I be a better mom for you? I feel like we're always fighting over XYZ. How can I be a better mom for you? The first thing they said to me is stop yelling because I was a yeller. Then I said, you're right. I do yell a lot. I don't want to yell, but I do. But why do you think I yell? Because we don't do what you ask. Yeah, that does tend to frustrate me when you don't. So I said, how can we better work that in? And then it got back to, as you were saying, with chores with your child, giving him a time frame in which to do it, and not expecting when I say it to hop to it, because that's what I expect. But I didn't want someone telling me to do something. I've got to drop everything and do it for them. Nobody likes that, but I was doing it because that's my personality. I'm gonna do it now, like you swish me. You know what I mean? Just do it now. But I wasn't honoring their autonomy that they may be in the middle of something. They might be watching a show or they may be reading a book, or whatever they're doing. And I was not respecting that. I was trying to control it. And so having those conversations to repair and restore lets them know that we're doing that. We're working together. The family meeting framework that I talk about when we are having chronic problems and saying, gosh, every morning, guys, I am yelling to get you guys out the door. I don't want to start my day this way. I know you don't want to start this day this way. How can we work this out? Giving them a voice at the table. Kyle, you're always lagging and the last one getting out, whatever that is. How can we better work that out? What do you think what do you think we can do better? And if they don't have an answer, then I'll say, can I make a suggestion? If it's real difficult for you to get a shower and get out in the morning, would it be helpful if you just showered the night before and then you just got to get up and go? Would that work better for you? And rather than trying to put the lunches together in the morning, would it be better if you just put your lunch together the evening before so then it's ready to go? Can I make a suggestion? How would that work out for you? Now, sometimes they'll take me up on the suggestion. Sometimes they'll have a million excuses. I don't want lunch sitting there for a whole 24 hours before I'm going to eat it. Then what would work better for you? It's a communication and collaboration, teaching and problem solving, not dictating to them, but working together towards a solution. That's how we can repair and restore. If you've been, as I have been, just a little too strong on some of the parenting style that I had in the past, how can we work better together? And then when you start to see them doing things on their own and you just bask in the pride that they have become independent and they are making good decisions. It's like, it was worth it. Is it easy? Heck no. Is it worth it? Absolutely. And it is what you had talked about. And that's the adapting. It's just changing what we're doing, finding a different approach. That my way is not always the way because I'm working with different personalities. And the way you started, April, I cannot.
I'll edit it and then I'll send it to her to finish editing.
Yeah, so sorry. The way we started, when you listed all of the virtues, I want to say, that you would like to see in your children, I think it's so powerful for parents. We can probably do a whole talk on that. Is to what are our family values? What do we stand for? What do we want to instill in our kids? And so as we are parenting them, everything reflects back to, am I teaching them to advocate for themselves? Am I teaching them to explore new opportunities? Am I teaching them to question things that they don't quite understand and not feel bad about asking? Am I teaching them to find balance in those? These are all the things that as parents that we need to know first so that we can be instilling them because these are the virtues and they were all beautiful, being faithful, having resilience, self-discipline, and compassion. These were beautiful virtues. And as we're going and raising our kids, it's so important for us to take that time of reflection as to what are the important virtues I want to instill in my kid. Not just teach them, I need to them they are watching us.
Literally yesterday read this and I'm reading the success principles and he talks about how you should do this in your family life, in your work and everything. And it's exactly what you said. It was that moment that I needed where on a scale of 1 to 10, how am I doing in or as whatever? Insert it here. Okay. What will it take to get to a 10? So it's a different way of saying exactly what you said. And I'm building up the courage after reading that yesterday to ask my children. I think I actually will do it individually. I feel like that because then it's my relationship with you, not my relationship with you guys, with you. And the place where I'm going to start is with my child, my oldest, because I know that he will have a lot of feedback. And I really do want to align more with what he's saying. Lately, he's been saying, you guys aren't giving me a chance to speak. Or why are you interrupting me? When actually, and I thought it was starting to become a me problem, but my husband caught him. It's actually a him problem because he's talking over me giving instruction. He's interrupting me when I'm telling him the whole plan in anger. And then the 10-year-old the talking back really low.
It's
Yeah, I was that child, so it's remembering what did I need then? But I really want to try this with him to help him out. So I love that you talked about that. Apparently, I needed that. Hopefully, I wanted to highlight that in case any of you needed that. And I hope that you really do take the time to sit down. I recommend couples counsel. Really important. There's family counsel, do couples counsel right before. But sit down with your other and what words represent the goals that you want to have for your children long term when they are grown up, they have families of their own, or they choose not to, whatever. What do you want? What values do you want them to have and hold? Make this as tangible as you can. And that is your roadmap to how you want to parent. And it's okay if you're not strong in these things. You are working on it together. That is the whole growth process. Enjoy it. Buckle up and enjoy it.
And that's part of the repair that you were talking about earlier. If there are things that we didn't exhibit or exemplify, how can we do it now? Failure isn't final. I just tell my kids it's not forever. It's just for now. How can we learn from this and move forward? Because it's all part of what makes us who we are. And I had a lot of learning and growing to do because I had never been a parent before. And so I had that vision, and then things started going sideways this way and that way. And I was floundering because I didn't have a good foundation as to who I was and how I wanted to raise my children loosely. But the way you had presented that, because you and your honey had talked about this is what we want for our kids. And I think in coaching, I'd always want to ask families, what are your values? What is most important to you? But you put it together with wonderful virtues and descriptive words that everything that you do should reflect back on how is what we're doing going to exemplify the values that we're trying to instill in our kids. And it's just really important. So just practical strategies to develop that independence in our kids so that they can go out into the real world and feel confident, resilient, have a healthy level of self-esteem that they can take on anything that the world brings them because we have given those skill sets. We've built those foundations.
And that goes with my last spot. And I love backing up into parking spots. And I could not do it if I did not have my backup camera. I'm not that good. It's so much easier. I have a van. I have 4 children. So when they're talking to me, needing all the stacks, it's easy to look out and then be able to pull out. Where they're not talking to me when I'm backing up. They're talking to each other at that point. But there's so many times where we do this in life. We're already going that direction, so we're going to continue going when we need to pull forward a little bit and realign to back up properly to get it in the guides. I really love that I have guides on my van too. But that is the repair. We can do that for ourselves and we can do that for our children. And hopefully all of you have experienced this and it makes a big difference, especially when your children are old enough to recognize you're going down the wrong track. You're saying the wrong thing. And then you have that, hold on, let me start over again. You can rewind even in the moment. Don't continue down a wrong path. We have so many opportunities to fix things. And a conversation, because I had a date with my husband, I had a chance to talk to him along that I had with him yesterday, looking at other people and even our own lives. If we aren't learning that particular thing, it comes back to us.
It will.
Maybe we're raising our grandchildren and they have personalities very similar to our children because we need to learn those things and learn how to parent correctly. Or we have a boss that's exactly like a boss that we had before that we couldn't stand or whatever. We tend to have repeating things because we need to learn that thing. So back up, pull forward whatever you need to do to realign yourself.
Yes, I love the realign. I love that. Absolutely. And I agree. As a spiritual woman and a woman of faith, God is going to teach me. If I don't get it the first or second or third time, it's going to keep coming until it's. So do you hear me now?
Have a new trial, please. I've said that. And just a new one. And then it comes. Oh, I'll take the old one back.
Oh, gosh. Autumn, this was a great conversation on ways that we can get our kids to just need us, but not necessarily need us for everything that we do. And if you have enjoyed this episode and you found value in it, let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe and tell others to follow us so we can reach more families to have better family relationships in the dynamics by using the understanding of personalities so that we can parent our kids according to theirs. We'll see you next time. Bye.